Oh my goodness. What the hell is this? Oh man, give me one sec. I had worked on this earlier too. My God. I'm so sorry. Always make sure your stuff works. Well, hey, it's back to the place I wanted it to be. Alright, cool. Actually, let me go check this. Yep. Oops. Dang it. I'm gonna have to lock this as well. Sorry about that. Where's the screen capture? Yep. Sorry about that. My thing is being stupid and not moving for no reason. Okay, cool. Alright. Okay. Stop snapping. Come on. It's not one thing, it's another. Alright, yeah, I'm gonna have to unlock this. I'm sorry. Stream is always falling apart. I always have to fix things. Why can't it be simple? Alright, cool. Now I'm just gonna lock these. I'm never gonna change them ever again. Never again. Alright. Hi. Technical difficulties. Hey everyone, I'm ChadRStewart. I'm a software engineer from Kingston, Jamaica, and oh, I forgot to change the title. And welcome to the stream. Yes, welcome. You know, really appreciate it. My room looks nice. What did I want to say? Yeah. So just quick thing. So I'm learning Node.js. Yeah, I'm learning Node.js, and I am taking a course from Andrew Mead. It's the complete Node.js tutorial. Let me actually, I put it up to kind of get all the documents I needed, but let me actually, well, you guys will see it in a minute. But yeah, so we're gonna take that. I'm continuing with that course. I'm on section 3. One of the things though is that recently I started learning TypeScript. Just started learning on my own, just messing around with it, and I have decided that I am going to do the absolutely stupid thing of updating my current instance, or the current project that I have that I'm using to learn the Andrew Mead stuff, and I am going to update it to TypeScript. And then I'm going to write TypeScript during the course, and I will hopefully be able to learn Node and TypeScript at the same time. I'm still going to practice TypeScript on my own. I may practice it on stream, probably not though, but I will definitely be trying to work on it on stream as well. I've been just doing a lot of TypeScript stuff within the last couple of days, and I really like it a lot. I guess for those of you who don't know, when I started programming, I started with a statically typed language, and to be honest, I'm particularly attached to that. And so picking up TypeScript, I switched to JavaScript because I'm mostly front end. But like picking up TypeScript, picking up TypeScript was pretty much, it made me feel like I was kind of working with static, well, obviously, but I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. So yeah, either way, that's kind of the idea. So, oh, let me not click on that. That's kind of the idea. So, let's get to it. Actually, let me do this. Let's get to it. So I'm gonna switch it to this after fixing this insanity. Computers, man. Anyhow, so this is just my type. Actually, let me go pull up the chat really quickly. So for those who have been coming into the stream, what would generally happen is I would pull up a window. I don't have two, what you call it? I don't have two monitors. So, pretty much if I want to see the chat, I'd have to pull up a window and look through it. And for whatever reason, Chrome has changed how those like windows worked, and I can't have it set to always on top of screen. So now I have to use my phone, which I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of, but you have to make do. Anyhow, anyways, so this screen is just me messing around with TypeScript. I call it this is a part of my sandbox. Where do I want to go? So I just want to close, not window, close workspace, and then what we will do is open workspace, documents, VS Code, personal, yeah, complete, yes sir. So I guess what I will do, I've already kind of completed a part of this notes app, which we're going to start in just a minute. But what I am going to do instead, and I literally was practicing this earlier, what I am going to do instead is I'm going to install TypeScript into this. I'm going to install TypeScript into this, and then I am going to just continue using TypeScript. So I guess this will be a good time to, I'm probably going to end up constantly doing this, but this is probably a good time to, I wrote a basic like TypeScript TypeScript installation thread on Twitter, and I'm pretty much going to go through it. Like, I don't necessarily need to go back and read it, but I'm just going to go through it because a lot of the stuff that I kind of said in the thread came from my experience with trying to convert this into TypeScript. It's actually a part of the sandbox. It's a part of the TypeScript sandbox that you just saw. But yeah, this is what I plan to work on. Before I do that, I need to change the title. I'm just going to with TypeScript. I wish you could add the actual voice. You have to read the title with TypeScript. You have to read the title like that. If you don't read the title like that, what am I doing? If you don't read the title like that, it's wrong. Actually, let me close this. Close this. And this can go in the background. And this is the stuff that I need. Cool beans. Alright, so installing TypeScript. How does one do that? First of all, you pray to the programming programming gods, and hopefully your thing doesn't break. Actually, before I do that, I am going to make a copy of this in case I mess up. Let's see, paste. Yeah, I'm gonna make a copy in case I mess up, because I might mess up. Which, I mean, that's fine, but you know, just to be able to start from the beginning without having to like re-download it from GitHub, because I have this hosted on GitHub. You can see all the stuff for the stream docs by typing in the command what is it, bang stream notes, and it will give you the what you call it. It will give you the course that I'm doing. It will give you the GitHub where all of my code will live, and it will also give you notes for that I will take during this course. So if you're interested in any of those things, you can just do that. And yeah. Anyways, so what are we going to do? So first of all, we are going to install TypeScript. TypeScript. We're gonna install TypeScript. So there's two ways you can install TypeScript, globally and locally. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of installing it globally, so oh wait, one other thing. I'm sorry, guys. I need to set my productivity thing. So yeah, like, wait, I can't even do. Come on, this is what I get. I have to set this to actually keep the internet on. Maybe disable sound on. Yeah, this will probably work. Okay, cool. So, and then I will do that. So, quick note about that. So I set a timer for a period of time, so that I do Pomodoro. So I set a timer for a period of time, and then after the timer ends, I go and I take a break, and then when the timer, and then after the break, I continue working. In the past, I used to run the timer for 50 minutes, 40 to 50 minutes, and then take a break for 10 minutes. I am going to try doing a regular Pomodoro, which is 25 minutes and then a 5-minute break, mainly because it just kind of got weird to take a 10-minute break, I feel like. But you know, it's just kind of messing around. So anyways, now that the Pomodoro is working, going back to installing TypeScript, like I was saying, there's two ways to install TypeScript, globally and locally. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of installing it globally. Plus, I actually don't know how to do that right now. I can go look it up, but I'm not going to because I don't like it. So, installing it locally means installing it directly to your project, and it's pretty simple. So I don't want to say that. To do that, you just do npm install or -i, however you feel like it. You have to save it as a dev dependency because it's a dev dependency, and TypeScript. And then npm will do all the magical stuff rather quickly, apparently. It will do all the magical stuff, and now you have, oh crap, I just realized that I installed it in the wrong place. Okay, let me uninstall TypeScript. Uninstall. My bad. I have to get rid of all this stuff now. Yeah, I didn't mean to install it in this folder. Is there anything else that I need to change? No. All right, cool. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna navigate to the folder oh, not node modules. Oh, notes. Notes app. We're gonna navigate to the app that we want to install TypeScript, and then we're gonna put in the same command. And this should install TypeScript here. Oh yeah, because that's why, because there wasn't a lot of stuff in the package.json. Cool. The second thing you need to do is you have your package.json, depending on, sorry, depending on um, what you call it, depending on what you've done, like what your project looks like, or if you have a project, you may have literally just generated the package.json, which I just literally did in error right then and there. But you know, like you may have something like this. If you don't have something like that, in essence, if you don't have scripts, you're just gonna make an object called scripts and you know just add what I'm about to add. But for me, since I already have scripts here, you want to add, you can call this anything you want. I'm gonna call it TypeScript, but you want to add this, and this, the TSC, wrong thing. The TSC is the TypeScript compiler, right? And now you have a command to be able to run the TypeScript compiler. So the next thing that you need to do is to, well, first of all, you can actually check that it's working by doing npm run and the command name. I have it called TypeScript, so right. So it won't. What is it? If you do not have a ts config.json file, when you run tsc by itself, it will automatically go to the help, and it will give you a list of commands and what you need to do, or it gives you a list of commands and what they do, and it gives you a fairly long list of commands. Actually going through this, I feel like it's pretty helpful. To be quite honest, I haven't gone through all of this. I've only been working with TypeScript for a couple of days, but you know. So we need to generate a ts config, or we need to have a ts config file. I would recommend you generating it because generating it is significantly easier, especially if you're not familiar with TypeScript. If you were familiar with TypeScript, then I guess all of this doesn't matter to you. But to generate a ts config, you put in npm run the command for accessing TypeScript, and dash dash. I am not exactly sure why you need to add dash dash here. I saw like the explanation before, but I'm not particularly sure. If somebody knows, please let me know. I like, for other things, I guess I haven't done like, for like other, what you call it, for other scripts, I haven't, you know, added flags. So I guess it might be just something for npm, but I'm not sure. I'll look it up in a little bit, or I'll look it up later, and I'll let everybody know. But you want to run this command: npm run npm run the name of the script for using the TypeScript compiler, dash dash empty dash dash and then dash dash init. And what this will do, this will generate a ts config file. Now, one of the main reasons why I significantly suggest I significantly suggest running this, having the compiler generate a config file, is because the config file has a whole bunch of things commented out, and these are various things. These are various settings for the compiler, and these are descriptions for the settings. And so if you're new to this, these are incredibly useful, absolutely useful stuff. And like, you can just go and kind of ask questions about all of these. I'm going to tell you right now that I don't know what half of this stuff does. I don't know if I know what quarter of this stuff does. But like, I have them here, and I have them here, and I have further reading that I can do here. And so in terms of learning, this is an absolute godsend. Right. So what I am going to do is there's a few things that I do. I set this to ES6. I don't think I need to, but I set this to ES6. I probably shouldn't. In fact, I am not going to. I'm not going to set that to ES6. One thing I will do though is, where is it? Where is it? So first of all, do we have a root? We don't have a root. All right. I'm not going to set the root directory. Generally, you should. So like say for instance your package.json. Say for instance your app doesn't have like a source. Has a source folder. You would set the root directory to the source folder. You don't necessarily have to. I guess it depends on the way your project is set up. Like the way my project is set up is that it like my source files start in the folder of the package.json, or not even necessarily the package.json, in the ts config. So I don't have to change it. If I were to move things around, like if I were to make a source folder, then I would change it, but I don't have to. But this is important. Where is output? All right, here. So I'm gonna comment this out. And I'm gonna put this back because just having it, oh, it's just getting worse. Just having it out of line is gonna bother me. Actually, whatever. What I'm going to do is I am going to set a output folder. So generally, when you have this, okay, I didn't mention this before, but so like browsers and Node and stuff like that, they can't read TypeScript files. When you're writing TypeScript, you actually have to compile TypeScript down to JavaScript files, and then that's what's usable by everything else, right? So when you're writing TypeScript, you're going to write your TypeScript, you write it however, and then you need to compile it to get to use it, right? The problem is if you do not set this, you will compile the TypeScript literally into the directory that the file was in. So if I were to compile this right now, actually I think I can, well, I can't because these are not TypeScript files. But if I were to try and compile anything, like say app.ts was, if app.js was actually app.ts, which is about to be in a minute, if I were to compile it, it would, app.js, the compiled version of app.js, would just appear right there. The output, this option allows you to just output the file into a directory for easy distribution. In fact, DIST stands for distributable, which I honestly did not know until I was messing with this, but whatever. Long story short, you really want to set this. You really want to set this to make sure that your compiled JS files don't clutter up the rest of your project, because it might be a bit of a pain to get them out, and you just don't want to have to deal with that. Also, quick note is that when you compile your project, it will output the JS files. It will output the JS files in the same folder structure. So I have a folder here, playground. I have a folder here, and it will output playground. Excuse me. It will output playground in it will create a folder playground. Excuse me. It will create a folder playground, and it will output the one-json.js into that folder. But it will do it in the output directory. And pretty much the only other thing that I want to change is this. So no implicit any. This is for me specifically. You don't have to change this if you're working with TypeScript. In fact, something I should have noted, you don't have to change any of this. Like out of the box, this kind of works. You know, like you can make like modifications to it, but literally out of the box, you can just install TypeScript, generate the tsconfig file, change all or whatever JS files you want to TypeScript files, and you're off to the races. That's literally all you have to do. There's a few issues with changing JS files, which I will show you in a minute. But anyways, about this option, I put this here because I don't want implicit any. So that's a part of TypeScript. When you declare a variable in TypeScript and you don't attach you don't tell TypeScript what kind of variable it is, it will automatically assign it to any, right? That's an implicit any. That's literally what it's called. What I don't want is I want TypeScript to yell at me whenever that happens. So if I declare a variable and I don't give it I don't tag it with I don't declare the variable as like say number or string, or I don't assign it a type. Why did I not know what that term was? If I don't assign it a type, I want TypeScript to yell at me. Like it will literally throw a error. It's not a warning or anything. Flat out error. It's just like this does not work. Well, maybe not necessarily this does not work, but it throws an error, right? It gets really upset at you. I want that. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for my specific setup. Generally, I would start with ES6, or so this gives you, like, this lets you use specific versions of JavaScript. So like, you know, you can use ES5, which is what it's defaulted to, ES6, what is it? ESNext is the latest ECMAScript specification. I don't remember, but you can set it for this, and it will use the tools of that specification. I'm leaving it at ES5 because Node is at ES5. I don't know, like, because this is a learning experience for me, I'm just going to leave it here, as opposed to mess around with it and cause my entire thing to explode. But yeah, pretty much after this, you know, if you have TypeScript files, you can actually start compiling them. Well, you can start using TypeScript you can start using TypeScript now. But anyways, what I want to do now is I am going to change this, and it's getting mad. This is something that I note as well. It gets mad at you if you don't have any TypeScript files. Like, what the error that I'm getting is no inputs found in config file, specify include. Supposedly that this error is caused, because I looked it up the other day, this error is caused by not having any TypeScript files in your project. And usually how I quote unquote fix that is just changing them to TypeScript. I don't know exactly if that's the issue. That's the issue that that TypeScript's complaining about, but you know, that's the solution that I found. It's a learning experience. And rename. So I am just changing the extensions for all of these files to TypeScript. Yeah, I'm just changing all the extensions for all of these files. So there's a few things here. So what I've seen is that, and I'm not exactly sure if this is the correct way to think about it, but what I've seen is that TypeScript requires, like, so this is basically from ES5, right? Require. I believe it's from ES5. I don't remember which one. But this is how you would pull other files from other parts of your project into the file that you're working with, right? Require, right? Apparently, it is not what you call it. It is not it's not installed by default when you install TypeScript, and so the suggestion they make is, oh, install TypeScript's a types node. And so I am going to do that. One of the things I want to say, which I kind of forgot, is that when you are changing your files to .ts, there's a few possibilities. Like generally, what may happen is TypeScript will get upset at you because of the way you have the project, your file set up at the time when you change it to TypeScript. So like for instance, a lot of these, well, maybe not necessarily a lot of these. I don't know why these aren't yelling at me, but if you don't have, I don't know why these aren't yelling at me, but a lot of times TypeScript will yell at you about something. That's normal. Like just if you're converting a project over to TypeScript, you're gonna change it to TS, and then all of a sudden TypeScript's going to be like, yo, why is this here? I'm very upset. That's normal, you know. Obviously, I can't go and be like, oh, solve this this way, but generally just expect for it to yell at you a bit, and you might have to make a bit of modifications before before it stops giving you errors. So like here, what I am going to do is I am literally going to just npm install -- save dev at types /node. I believe that's what it's suggested. Yeah, npm right. And I'm just going to install this, and this should install, I believe it's the types to use this. I don't exactly know what that is, but I am going to mess around with it anyways. You know, again, learning experience, but error's gone, right? I believe there might be, yeah, there's an error here. I don't remember exactly why this error happens. This is obviously for my project specifically, not necessarily, it's not going to happen for everybody's project. Maybe it's because it's called the same, so I'm going to call this. I remember that was the issue. It was like called the same. Get notes. I don't know what to call this. Get notes in whatever. I'm just gonna call it require. And it's not yelling at me anymore. What is this? Apparently, implicit has an implicit any. Cool. Where is this can go away? Arg. I believe this needs to be a object actually. It can't be a string. So title does not exist in type. Okay, so I am going to try and fix this. And by the way, I completely expected to be doing all this, which is pretty much trying to deal with all of this stuff on stream. But yeah, as Sauron would, is it Sauron? Saruman said, "You have elected the way of pain." That's pretty much it. You know what? I'm actually going to call this any, and that will shut TypeScript up for the moment. So I want to definitely get out of the habit of not doing this. I do not want to declare any's if I don't have to. But for now, to solve this problem so that we can actually get to work, that's fine. And I believe that should be it. So, right, so pretty much what we've done is we've installed TypeScript as a dev dependency. We have generated a tsconfig file and did whatever changes to it that we needed to do. And we changed all our JS files to the .TypeScript files. Quick note, if you are working in React, you don't change them directly to .ts files. You change them to .tsx files because TSX is for JavaScript components. I haven't worked in React with this. JavaScript, sorry. JSX, well, React components. It's for using JSX in the file. Sorry about that, but it's for using JSX in the file. I haven't worked in it yet, so I don't know why they have decided that you have to name React components TSX, but I will figure it out at some point. And I'll let everybody know when I do. But that's pretty much it. So the one thing I do want to do is I want to actually run TypeScript. I want to run the compiler just to show how this will work. And so you run this, you run the compiler without any flags. Good God, that scared the hell out of me. Alright, is this a yes or no? Okay, cool. I'm just gonna leave that there for now. I just want to run the compiler, and it will take all the .ts files and it will compile them to JavaScript, hopefully without blowing up. And yeah, so like I said, you just run this command without any flags, and you don't need this, even though you can just put it there anyway. You run it without flags, and it will look for all .ts or .tsx files in this folder, and it will compile them down to JavaScript. So this, and we have this file, and it literally has exactly what we want. You may have to change a few things, like, well, I guess you don't actually, because this require is right here, and this goes to the this goes to the node modules. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know exactly how the outputting works. I've actually not compiled anything that I needed to run, or I haven't compiled anything that was more than like a simple running it in Node or whatever. But excuse me. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So I believe we've kind of got all of this set up, and I am just going to I'm going to continue through the project, and I'm going to continue through I'm going to continue through the course, but I'm just going to write it in TypeScript instead of JavaScript, and that will hopefully I'll be able to learn 2 skills at once. The course has multiple projects, so I will have to spin up TypeScript more than once. Technically, this is like the first time I'm spinning up TypeScript. There was something else I needed to change. Oh no, I changed it already. But yeah, hopefully fun. It'll be fun. And I like TypeScript. I don't mind wrestling with it. It's kind of fun to wrestle with it, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna take my break now. It'll be 5 minutes. I'll be here with everybody. What I do is I generally just kind of get up and chill out. But yeah, where is it? So Twitch stream, that'll go away, that'll go away. Let's start break. Cool beans. All right, so break time. What I generally do. Oh, excuse me. I don't know why I'm so tired. Well, I woke up pretty early today. But yeah, what I generally do during the break is I just get up and I move around. Excuse me, walk around. Well, not walk around because my headset is attached to the computer. But I just move around, you know, just not necessarily get the blood pumping, but I just try to avoid sitting all the time, you know. So you just get up and walk around. So and I always have this spiel. I'm gonna try to avoid having I'm gonna try to avoid saying this what you call it 4 times, or I guess 3 times, because the 4th time would be the end of the stream. But yeah, like, oh man, why am I so sleepy? That's so sad. But yeah, you know, I just advise people whenever I'm streaming, you know, like when you're working, just take some time to take a break. You know, take a step back from your problem that you're working on. Just rest your brain. You know, like get up, walk around, do something else. I know there was a suggestion. I took a course. It's called Learning How to Learn. It's on Coursera, and one of the things that they suggest is that you literally like do something that is enjoyable, right? They suggest that mainly to help you build a habit of doing the thing that you want. So it's like a reward system, right? So like our brain is geared towards rewards. So it's like you do the thing and then you reward yourself, you know, and you reward yourself with something enjoyable. So like for instance, I could watch YouTube videos for like 5 minutes and just chill out, right? Yeah, I could watch YouTube videos. I could go eat something sweet or something. And you know, it's just that kind of pattern, right? So you do some work, and the Pomodoro is really good for this. You do some work, you do some work, you reward yourself, and you just keep doing that. And now your brain is just like, oh, you know, they associate a good thing like pleasure or what, I don't remember what the pleasure response is, but it associates something good with the thing that you're doing, and that's like a way of helping you build a habit into doing it. Plus like say for instance engaging with a Pomodoro, it's like as opposed to thinking of a task that's gonna take you 5 hours, you can walk in being like, oh, I'm just gonna do this Pomodoro. The Pomodoro is 25 minutes. After 25 minutes, you know, I can do whatever you want. I can do whatever I want. And a lot of the times, once you start a task, it you know, it becomes easier to just continue doing it. It's usually the starting of the task that's usually the problem, like in terms of procrastination. And the Pomodoro is also really good at helping against that, at dealing with that issue with procrastination. But yeah, oh wow, 5 minutes went like with a quickness. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, I like the Pomodoro a lot, especially because I'm definitely the type of person to sit down and just work through a problem. Sit down and work through a problem without breaks for like 3-4 hours, and then after that I'll be like, okay, I'm done, and I'll get up and I'll try to get up, and my legs would be so weak, like I put so much mental stress on myself that I literally can't get out of my chair. And yeah, it's a horrible feeling. It sucks. So take breaks, please. Take breaks. Man, that is an obnoxious song. Why did I choose that song? So give me 1 second. I'm gonna take a quick bathroom break because I've been drinking water and the water wants to leave now. So 1 minute. All right, I'm back. So now we're gonna get into the project proper, or into the course proper. Again, this is section 3. So let me turn this back on. Start work. By the way, this app is so cool. Let me. I don't want to close it. Whatever. This Pomodoro app is so cool. I was using another Pomodoro app before, and I don't want to say it was worse, but it was a bit of a pain. It was a bit of a pain to work with. And then one of the things that it didn't do, it stopped doing for whatever reason. It stopped alerting people, or it stopped alerting me. Excuse me. It stopped alerting me on when my sessions ended. So I had to keep looking at the phone, and that was just mad annoying. So yeah. anyhow, to the course.
In particular, the focus is going to be on one of the most fundamental.
Oh, right. Quick note. It's at 1.5, so he's going to be talking. He's going to be talking really quickly. I may put it back down to 2.5 or 1.25. But yeah, yeah. Just anyways.
Features of Node, which is the
So it's gonna look weird as well. The video is gonna look weird.
Node module system. This is what allows us to load functionality into our app and use it to do interesting things. So as an example, if you want to go ahead and read or write from the file system, if you want to connect to a database or start up a web server, all of those are going to require you to use. You'll learn how to load in core Node modules. These are modules that are included by other developers, and you'll learn how to load in modules that you yourself have created. I'm really excited to dive in and to start this first app, so let's get to it. Welcome to your very first programming video for the class. From here on out, we're going to be spending our time writing code and building Node applications in Visual Studio Code. Now, in this video in particular, to kick off the course, we're going to talk about one of the most fundamental features of Node. This is the module system, and this is what's going to allow us to take advantage of all of the cool and interesting things that Node provides. So as an example, over here in the docs, there are all sorts of modules listed. Now, some, as we saw with console, are available globally, which means we don't have to do anything special to use them. Right here, as an example, we just accessed console.log to use it. Others require us to actually load them in before they can be used in our scripts. That's exactly what we're going to explore, and the module we're going to use to explore this is the file system module.
Sorry about this. Give me 1 second again. I just need to get something done. 1 moment. I have returned. But yeah.
Listed down below. This is the module that's going to allow us to access the operating system's file system. We'll be able to read and write, append files, and figure out if a given file or directory exists. All sorts of interesting utilities related to the file system. The table of contents here contains all of the interesting ways we can use this module inside of our Node applications, and if we start at some point, followed by some method name. In alphabetical s.write to a file on our file system, I have fs.write.
So I'm skipping ahead because I kind of, well, I'm not going to say that I know how to use FS, but I've done, which part of this? I think this is the section that I completed this section, and then I didn't finish this section, right? So after, I guess, video 19, all of this will be new material, or after video 18, I should say, all of this will be new material. But up until that point, I've already kind of done all of this stuff, and some of the stuff I already kind of know because I've just been working in the ecosystem for a while. But yeah. Oh wow, these are actually there's a fair amount of videos or a fair amount of sections for this. So it's like 1, 2, 3. Cool. Cool beans. Anyhow, right. Let me continue the video.
Write file and fs.writeFileSync. The first one is an asynchronous version, the second one is a synchronous version, and for the moment, we're going to stick with the synchronous version. Don't worry though, we will be exploring asynchronous Node.js in detail in just a couple of sections. For now though, the goal is to learn about this module system. So fs.writeFileSync takes in 2 arguments, the name of the file you want to write to, and the data you want to write. So let's go ahead and use it. I'm going to head over to the Visual Studio Code editor, and I will take a moment to delete hello.js, as this is not going to make it into any of our applications. Let's go ahead and trash it. And we'll make a brand new folder for our first project, which is going to be a little notes app. So I'll call the
Hello.js. We hardly knew you.
folder notes app, and in there, we're going to make a single JS file. Right here, app.js.
Cool.
Now down below, inside of the terminal, I am going to switch directories from node course to notes app by using cd space, then the folder name, notes-app. Now we're actually running commands from that directory, and that's great because we're going to run node in just a few seconds. Let's go ahead and actually use fs.writeFileSync. Exactly like we saw in the docs, it is fs, which is an object, dot, the method name is writeFileSync. It is indeed a function, so I am going to call it as such, setting.
So I'm trying to figure out where my stuff, we might have deleted it. We might have ended up deleting it, or I might have ended up deleting it. Notes. Nope. So I remember when I was working on this, I ended up kind of going off the rails a little bit. Mainly because I'm just that type of person. I just like messing around with stuff. So it may not, even when we get to that part of the course, it may not actually be the exact same thing as the course. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I mean, we're gonna be watching all of this stuff anyway. So what's probably going to end up happening is that I'll kind of understand what I did as a that differs away from the instructor, and I'll probably just get back to my place. So, but yeah, I just thoughts that I wanted to put out there.
Out my parentheses, and as I mentioned, this takes 2 arguments. In this case, both are strings. The first is the name of the file, the second is the data to write. Let's go ahead and pick a name for our file, and I'm going to call this something like notes.txt. So,
alright, so I'm sorry, this is also random. I'm looking at this, and again, we're in TypeScript, right? I don't want too many any's, but I don't know, like, should I just make this an any? Like, I don't know what the convention is for requires, so I want to look that up really quickly. So let me do that really quickly. So require variables, TypeScript. Just want to see what people do. Not variables, like guess it's not gonna complain. Like, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of it being an any. Um, by the way, this is me being stupid, being stupidly stickler about all of this stuff. I am pretty sure there's a bunch of reasons why I shouldn't be like so silly about it, but for now, I'm trying to be, I'm trying to I'm trying to learn where to add restraints, where to add constraints, not restraints, constraints and why. Which is a part of kind of learning this stuff. So I'm just kind of looking through. Whatever. I'm probably not gonna find it anytime soon, so let's just kind of get back to it. Oh, what's up, Jason? Oh my God, you can't hear anything? Are you serious? Hold on. Give me 1 second. Can you hear anything now? Let me see. I don't even know when you said anything. I am so sorry. This is the reason why I don't like this setup for, cause I completely ignore chat by accident. All right, give me a sec. I'm gonna go check when you sent that message. That is not what I want. Let's see. All right, I'm just going to go to Twitch. Okay, man, I missed it by 4 minutes. I am so sorry, man. Let me actually hold on. I wonder if this works still. It's still the stupid. All right. Either way, let me type this in chat. Da 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 at Jason. Oh, are you not? Oh my God. Are you not in chat? Yeah, you're in. So, no, I don't want to whisper. Whatever. All right, so since I have this here, I will check if, if, okay, so it's just really low. Why is it really low though? All right, I'm just gonna move this. Hopefully, all right, cool. Let me check the music. Oh, that's not what I want. It's gonna be a little bit more difficult. I can't hear anything. All right. All right. So let me try to bring the music down a little bit more. Hopefully the music is not too loud. That's not what I want. Can you hear anything, Jason? Like, I know without the music you can hear, which I might have to end up just cutting this, which I really don't want to do, but dang. But yeah, the problems with streaming. I really need to get a second monitor, man, because I much rather have the chat like in my face as soon as the chat, because it's not like I'm playing a game where I'm focused on the game. I can just be like, oh, a message popped up and I can just react to it. You know what I can probably do? You know what I can probably do? I can probably just run this in Firefox. Just run the chat in Firefox. I just need the chat itself. I don't need to be able to type in it. So what I will do, can I actually set Firefox to be always on top? I can't do that either. Wait, hold on. Let me check. So twitch.tv/ChadRStewart. I'm sorry for kind of interrupting everything. Actually, speaking of interrupting, let me pause that. I should pause it for a little bit. Pause this, and then what the hell? Animated emotes can be disabled. Cool. That's good to know. Pop out, and then always on top. Let's use Firefox. All right. Cool. Cool beans. I'm just gonna use Firefox from now on. Or at least I'm gonna use the Firefox. I'm just gonna use Firefox for the chat. Can't say anything, but that's fine. Let me just make sure that this works. Hello. Cool beans. All right. Yeah. At least I figured it out, and we can get rid of this stupid thing off of my phone. Alright, so now we have the chat back on screen again. Looking goofy. Looking goofy as hell. I'm so sorry, like, yes, bit of a mess. I'm just kind of getting used to this change for Chrome. But anyways, wait, you said you can't hear anything. Does that mean you can't hear this? Let's see. Alright, I'm gonna kill the song. I'm gonna kill the music. I'm gonna kill the music. I'll figure that out later. Dang, that sucks. Alright.
So for the moment, we're going to stick with a simple text file, though later on we'll learn how to work with files.
Sorry about all of that. Sorry, Jason, about all of that. I'm still kind of working out a few kinks. Have the Firefox solution was a great solution though. I'm kind of happy that I came up with that. Because I don't have to worry about my phone anymore. In fact, I don't even need the phone open. So I'm going to go turn this back on, and then I'm just going to close the phone and let the phone do whatever the hell it wants. And I have access to chat again. Oh my god, it's so good. Oh wait, here it is. Yep. Anyways,
of other types. Now, the second argument is going to be the contents to put in that file. So right here, as a string, let's go ahead and write out a little message. This file was created by Node.js. Perfect. So now we actually have a call to write file sync, and we can go ahead and run this script. The problem is that it's not going to work. Down below, let's prove that. I'm going to use Node to run a script. After a space, the script name is app.js, which is indeed in the directory we're running commands from, the notes app directory.
Give me a sec. I'm going to full screen this so that it's easier to read for everybody.
If I go
since I'm not doing this right now,
ahead and hit enter, we are not going to see any sort of output that suggests that things went well. Right here, we have a very long error message. It contains information about exactly where the error occurred and what exactly is going wrong. Now, later in the course, when we explore debugging, we'll really break down errors like this. For the moment, the only important piece is this little message right here. FS is not defined. So the problem is that we're using FS. FS, though, needs to be loaded in and defined. The file system, the for is done using of the module system, or node modules, to install and to use in our projects. To load in the file system module, we have to call the require function, which is string of the module. Returns all of the stuff from that module, and we have to store that on a variable. Right now, FS still doesn't exist. So right here, we're going to create a constant called fs, and its value is going to come from the return value of calling require. So let's break this down. We're calling require, which is going to load in the fs module script. Then down below, the notes.txt file. Let's go ahead and see if this works. Down below, I'm going to start by clearing the terminal output using the clear command. If you're on Windows and you're using the standard command prompt, you're going to have to use cls, which is the command for you. And now we're going to go ahead and run the app script again. So node space app.js. This time, what do we see? We see nothing. It brings us right back to the command prompt, asking us to do something else. But you'll notice that over here in the tree view for the notes app directory, we have a brand new file right alongside of app.js. We have notes.txt, which got its name from this argument.
Okay, so I remember doing that work, but yeah, so I think where is it? I think there was, where is utils? This is for me, right? Yeah. Yeah, I just wrote a utils file. This is not going to appear in the project. Um hmm, what did I do? So note title. Yeah. I guess we didn't I ended up not storing it. I don't remember. It could be, yeah, so I believe in the project we ended up storing this, or sorry, we ended up writing to a JSON file, but it's not a part of the project yet. We just did like a random thing, to store. Man, the stream feels so dead without music now. Man, I need to work on the music. I'm gonna definitely, like, right after the stream, I'm going to put a little bit of effort into figuring out how to do the music stuff. Either way.
And if I crack it open, what do we have? We have our little message. This file was created with Node.js, which is fantastic. And now let's go ahead and switch up the text we're writing and run the script again. So over here, I'm going to change the text value for that second argument. Go ahead and do the same. I'll switch it up to something like an introduction. I'll say, my name is Andrew, period. Perfect. Now we can rerun the script to write some new contents to that file. Down below, I'm going to use the we ran was once again to write file sync methods. Those are responsible for writing data to a file. If the file doesn't exist, as we saw, it'll be created. If the file does exist, as we just saw, its text content will be overwritten with the new provided message. I want to take a quick moment to note that this variable fs, it could be called anything we want up system, and that would be perfect as well. Stick with the convention. For all node modules we load in, there's typically a variable name that everyone uses, and it makes life easier if we all stick with that variable name so we can know what exactly we're working with across projects.
Oh yeah, no, it's no problem. It's no problem. So you know what? Since I have you here, first of all, let me set the chat appearance. Can I? That is not timestamps. Here we go. Right. So since I have you here, I want to ask. I shut I shut it down. All right. Let me go here. I can close this. I'm just gonna restart the song. Let's see. Grid. Grid. Here it is. So I want to ask, can you hear? Let me move this so that it's on the volume that I want. All right. I want to know if you can hear both. If you can hear the what you call it. If you can hear me, and if you can hear the chorus above the music. I'd done this stuff before and I thought it was good, but yeah.
Now, if you're wondering how I knew to load in FS or what the...
So I'm just gonna continue playing the chorus, but yeah, let me know if you can hear both me and the chorus over the music. Let me know if you can hear the music. Like, let me know how the whole mix works, like if it's okay with you or not.
The common variable.
I can't take the music down any more than I can now. So what I will end up probably doing is figuring out a way of downloading the song. So I'm gonna kill the music again. I'm gonna figure out a way of downloading the song because actually, can I? Why I keep doing this? Why do I keep doing this to myself? Okay, that is not me. All right, hold on. So grid again. Let's do this. All right, let me put that down. Oh, that's way too. Yeah, I don't think I can. Yeah, and setting this is going to be annoying. So, okay, cool. So, all right. All the audio going through the same channel or OBS. Yeah, so all the desktop audio is going through the same channel. The mic has a different channel, but all the desktop, yeah. Where is this? So
name is, or whether the module even needs to be loaded in at all. Once again, these dots are your best friend. If we go back over,
is the course any good? Like, can you hear the course over the music?
Over to the documentation and scroll down past the table of contents, one of the first things we're going to see is what we have on line 1. Here, we can see exactly what node calls the module. Based off of the fact that this code is here, we know it needs to be loaded in, unlike console, and then they have a common used variable name, which we can choose to use or choose to ignore, though once again, it is typically a best practice to use.
Cool beans. Thank you. But yeah, like, I don't know how to separate like different desktops, different like channels for desktop. I'll figure it out. And there's my phone telling me to take a break. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna go use the bathroom and then I'll come back and I'll take a break with you guys. Or well, I'm gonna start the break and then I'm just gonna use the bathroom and come back and talk to you for a bit. So huzzah. Give me 1 second. I'm back. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Thanks for bearing with me. Um, Let me not put it on this screen. What screen? Uh, Alright, let me just put this back up. I should I should make an exercise screen or something. Alright, cool. That'll work. So I'm just standing, moving around, stuff like that, being a tad bit active. Sorry we're not going through the course as fast as we were. So I guess for Jason, just to let Jason know, so I'm going through. Oh wait, you were here last time, but yeah, going through this course No, I don't think you were. Whatever. Going through a course by Andrew Mead, Node, complete Node.js course. So we're gonna learn Node, but I am going to write it in TypeScript instead of JavaScript. So in essence, I am going to learn Node and then wrestle with TypeScript and hopefully learn TypeScript as well. So that's kind of the idea right now. I spent a little bit of time learning or installing TypeScript into the project that I was working with. Excuse me. Yeah. So I spent a little bit of time installing TypeScript, and yeah, that's kind of what we're gonna do now, or what we're doing. We're probably not going to end up doing a lot of work today because I've gone through a good portion of the course. So, well, we'll eventually get to a point where we need to start writing code, and then everybody gets to see me struggle through TypeScript while learning this stuff as well. Let me stop because that is bothering the hell out of me. Yeah, why is it doing that? That is so weird. Why does it do this? Like, that is so strange. I never, well, I noticed that earlier today, but whatever. Anyhow, excuse me, I do not know why I'm so tired. Well, I don't think I've really been sleeping all that well, to be quite honest with you. I haven't been sleeping that great. But, just make do, right? Anyhow, I think it should be about, yeah, the break's about to end. Fanfare. I think I'm gonna leave that. It just spooked me because I completely forgot that I had it. Like I had the thing there. Man, I am really upset at how tired I am. Anyhow, so let me go back to this and turn this back on. Cool beans. Then not that. All of that stuff. And then here. And then start work. Cool.
Use the name, in this case, FS. So at this point, we have loaded in our...
By the way, this is a 16 minute video being played at 1.5x and it's still taking like 30 minutes to get through it. I'm so terrible at this.
First core Node module, and we've used it to do something interesting. Now I want to take a moment to move on to our first challenge for the class. Whenever I write code in a video, you should be following along as well. I film all of the videos in real time so you can actually write the code I'm writing. That is a great way to learn something, but it's not the best way to make sure you can actually use that information to solve problems. So throughout the course, in almost every single video, I have a challenge where you're going to need to solve a programming problem based off of what you just learned. The goal here is to give you as much real-world experience as possible actually using Node.js on your own. By the end of the course, you'll actually have a ton of experience writing your own code and building your own apps, and you'll find it much more comfortable to go off after the class and actually use Node.js, whether you're building your own side project, trying to get into freelancing, or trying to switch careers and become a Node.js developer. So it's important that you follow along with the lessons. For example, you should have this code in your editor. It's also equally important that you take the challenge.
You're not gonna tell me what to do.
Seriously. So here's how they work. I give you a prompt, I give you a second to pause the video, you go off and solve the problem, then you come back and I walk you through the solution. So let's go ahead and jump into our very first one. As always, I'm going to paste in a little description of what I'd like you to do. So this is a pretty standard challenge. Now, they're going to start off easy and they're going to get harder over time as we actually know more about Node and we can do more things. Right here, challenge. Your goal is to append a message to notes.txt. So I don't want to override what's here, I want to add something new on to the end. How are you going to do that? You're going to use a new method from the file system module called append_file_sync to append to the file. Once you've added that in, you're going to run the script, and finally, you're going to check your work, making sure that the new text you append is showing up on the end right here. Now to do that, we are going to comment out our existing fs.writeFileSync call. We're going to add just that one call in, the call to append file sync. And if we head over to the documentation, you can learn more about that. I'm going to scroll up back to all of those modules and methods we were looking at earlier. And if I go all the way up to fs dot and I go to the A's, I have append file sync right here. Now, append file sync works much the same way as write file sync. It needs the name of the file you're trying to append, and it needs the text content you want to append. So in the end of the day, we want to append to the file whose name is right here, and you can pick whatever message you want as the text to append. You could add to the introduction saying something maybe about where you live or how old you are. If the concept of a challenge seems a little foreign to you, don't worry, we're going to go through this about 100 different times throughout the course, so you'll be pretty comfortable with it by the end. And as I mentioned, things are going to start off easier as we know less about Node, and the challenges will get more complex, requiring you to write many lines of code as we progress through the class. For now, though, take some time to knock out all 3 steps down below. You can pause the video. When you're done, come back and click play. How'd that go? Very first challenge down. Hopefully it went well. If it didn't, that's okay too. This is really an introduction to challenges, and once again, we'll get more comfortable as we do more of them. Right here, the goal was to use fs.append file sync. Now this is already a module we have loaded in, so there's no need to load it in again. Right here, we can call fs.append file, and you'll notice that since we've loaded in the FS module with Visual Studio Code, at least I am getting some helpful suggestions about which methods I have access to. Right here, I will be using append file sync and calling it as such. Now, what file am I trying to append to? Well, I only have one. It is notes.txt, so that will be the value I provide for the first argument, and for the second argument, I'm going to provide the text I want to append. I'll say something like, I live in Philadelphia. Perfect. Now, since we're appending one string right onto the end of the other, I'm going to put a space at the beginning of the string. Now we can go ahead and arrow key and enter.
Oh, sorry. Let me full screen this.
To rerun the previous command. And if I open up notes.txt, what do we have? I have my old message, my name is Andrew, and I have my new message, I live in Philadelphia, which is excellent. And there we go. You've completed your very first challenge. Once again, these are essential to getting real-world experience, solving problems, and working through your misunderstandings. So it's okay if you don't get them all right, or it takes you a lot of time to figure out what's going on. It's going to get easier to recall what we covered as we use it more and more. Now that we're starting to write code together, I wanted to remind you that the lecture resources for every lesson of the class contains a zip of the code up to that point. So if you're getting stuck and you can't quite figure it out, you can always download the zip for that lesson that contains all of the code changes made, and you can compare your code with my code. You can also head over to links.mead.io/node course to view a GitHub repository that contains every piece of code created in the class.
Let me go do that. Let me go back. So links.me.io/node course. Hopefully it's still that. Yep. Oh, okay. So it's just oh, cool. Notes app. Okay. Excuse me. I don't want to look at this. Yeah, I don't want to look at all that. Alright, cool. As long as that's there, that's fine.
Repository that contains every piece of code created in the class. That's where system and require. I am excited to get to that. So let's go ahead and jump right in.
Cool beans. Yes, thank you.
In the last video, you learned how to use the require function to load in a Node module. In this video, you're going to learn how to use the require function to load in another file you've created. So right now, the only file that's ever going to execute is app.js, because that's what we passed to the node command. That means we're going to have to put everything in this file if we want it to run, and that's not ideal. As our applications get larger and more complex, we're going to have way more code than we would want to have in a single file. When all of our code sits in one file, it makes the project really hard to expand on and maintain. So from the start, we're going to go ahead and create projects that use multiple files so we can stay organized. We can do something like define a function in what we're going to end up doing in this. I'm going to delete everything we have inside of here, and we're going to start with a very simple bare bones example to illustrate how all of this works. And then we'll create something more complex using the FS module once again. For the moment, let's go ahead and define our name as a variable. Next up, we're providing the one and only argument, a reference to the name variable. Now, if we run this program, we know exactly what's going to happen. Down below, I'll rerun the script, and what do I get? As expected, I get my message, Andrew. To define this directory, we have to add a new file into our project. It doesn't end up in the root, which is the node course directory. So right here, I'll right-click on the Notes app folder. I'll add a new file, and we'll call this something generic, like utils.js, and let's just say...
Oh, wow. I guess I didn't write utils. Console log utils.js, my name, function function AB. Okay.
This is a file which contains a few useful utilities for the rest of the application. Now, all we're going to do inside of here for the moment is use console.log to print a little message, and we're going to print the file name, utils.js, so we can figure out exactly when this file runs. Now, if we were to go ahead and run app.js, we would not see that log statement. Down below, we can prove that. I'll rerun the script. I only get my Andrew message. I do not get the message over here. So when we pass a file to Node, only that file executes. If we want another file to run, we have to require it for that file to actually get loaded in. We can do just that. Up above, I'm going to add a line at the very top of the file, and here we're going to use require. I'm going to call the require function exactly like we did in the last video when we were loading in the FS module, and we're...
Oh, I didn't change this to TS. Sorry. Let me do that right now. Is there anything? What are you upset about? Cannot redeclare. Why is it? What do you mean redeclare? Cannot redeclare scope, block scoped variable name. The name was also declared here. Is there? So notes? No. Okay. I'm just gonna change it to my name. And then I'm going to say it is a string. And then these are number. And in fact, what I am going to do, especially since this is a const, let me see, interface, math func, funny enough, interface math func, and then A is a number, B is a number, and then I think I'm doing this right. Yeah, I'm doing it right. And then we output number. Why is this salty? Okay. So I was expecting that. Cool. And then math func. Cool. So what I just wrote, just a bit of TypeScript. I'm just writing a way of, I'm writing an interface so that the function add will accept two variables. It will accept two variables. Those variables have to be numbers, and it will return a number. Right. So I just did that. I just making a quick note. Right, so I think that's about it, yeah.
We're still going to pass in a single argument, a string. Now, when we're loading in a file that we created in our application, we start with // We have to provide a relative path from the file we're loading it in from, in this case app.js, to the file we're actually trying to load, in this case utils.js. So from app.js, it is //, which gets us to the folder for this file. That would be notes-app. From there, we can just go right to the utils.js file, which is located in the same directory. Mead going to execute, rerun the program. Down below, I'll rerun our app script, and what do I get? I get utils.js printing first, because require happens up here, and that's when utils runs. Then down below, I get Andrew, because that's a bit further down the file. S and one from utils, simple one that takes advantage of multiple files from that we use in app.js, and in this case is app.js. So let's see what that looks like. To do this, all I'm going to do is remove the name variable from app.js. So right now, the program would fail because we're trying to reference this variable that doesn't exist. Over in utils.js, we're going to recreate it. So right here, a new const name equals, we're going to pick a value for this. I'll switch things up just to see the different output down below, and I'll stick with Mike as my string for name. Now we're going to save both files and see what happens. So we load in utils.js, which defines that variable. Then we reference the variable down below. Down below in the terminal, I'll use clear to clear the terminal output, and I'll use the up arrow key twice to cycle past the clear command to the node app.js command. We're gonna run it, and it's gonna fail. When I do, what do we get? Name is not defined. So this is one very important aspect of the node module system. All of your files, which you can refer to as modules, have their own scope. So app.js has its own scope with its own variables, and utils.js has its own scope with its own variables. App.js cannot access the variables from utils.js, even though it was loaded in with require. So if I can't access name right now, how exactly do I get that done? The answer is that we need to explicitly export all of the stuff this file should share with the outside world. This is where we can define all of the things this file should share with other files. Object, whatever we assign right here is what gets exported. So all we're going to do is export whatever the value is for name, which we know is the string Mike. So at this point, utils.js is doing
Oh, we exported add. Okay.
Its job well. It defined a variable and it exported that variable. Other files can now take advantage of it. Whatever you assign to module.exports, that is available as the return value from when you require the file. So I require utils.js right here, which is a constant. I'm going to pick a name for our new variable, the working state. Let's go down below. I'm going to use clear to clear the terminal output, and I'm going to use the up arrow key twice to rerun the script. And what do I get? I get my utils.js message, which did in this file, but it's getting defined over here. To load it in over here with require. Doesn't mean I have to use that over here. It'll be different variable name, and that would work just fine as long as I change the reference. We run the program, and what do I get? I get the same a slightly more real-world example where we export a function. The function that we're going to create will be defined in utils.js. It'll be exported from that file. It'll be loaded into this one and called down below. Names would work. The point is to figure out how to show current module share functions across.
That's weird. Why do you have any's? That's really weird. Alright, hold on. But since I have a version of this that is not TypeScript, I'm gonna go check. Why is that? I didn't know that it did that. Okay, I'm just clearly silly. Whatever.
Files. Now down below, we can export it. So currently, we're exporting name. We're no longer going to do that. Instead, we're going to set module.exports equal to, right here, the add function. Now, what do we know? We know that what comes back from require is now this function, which means that over here, the name first name doesn't make much sense anymore, and neither does how we're using it. We need to call it since it's a function. So right here, I'm going to call that add, which is indeed appropriate, though remember, it could be called anything as long as we're consistent in this file. Down below, sum, or, and to the screen. So right here, sum, perfect. Let's go ahead and save all files and see if this works. Down below, I'm going to rerun the script, and what do I get? I get my utils.js method file, which is a fantastic step in the right direction. Now into util, or you could choose to leave it around as a reference for the future challenge. If you want to do that, you can just I could highlight all of the lines. Then I'm going to paste in the challenge comments, and we'll talk about what I'd like you to do.
Okay, so challenge. Now I'm not actually going to do this. I'm just going through. I'm just kind of reading it. Create a file called notes.js. Is that where yep, so this was me doing the challenge before. Notes.js, create a function get notes that returns get notes, export get notes from app.js, load and call it function printing the message. Yeah, cool.
So big picture goal, you want to define to actually to does turn really step function. Once again, as the weird moment to step one, app new function that returns the description. Right now it's defined, but it's not exported, so no other file could take advantage of it. Export is going to happen in app.js. We have to load in the file, calling require in to the file we're trying to load. So // console.log to print the message to the console. Perfect. Let's go ahead and see if this works. Down below, I'm going to print this in this file, leaving just those 3 lines in place. So now we know how to load in core node modules. We're going to talk about and jump right.
Cool.
You now know how to use the node module system.
Oh, sorry. All right, so I'm going to use the bathroom again because water. 1 minute. I will be right back. I? Yep, there I go. Cool. So I'm gonna finish out this video and then I'm gonna call it a day. I have about 9 minutes on my clock. I was hoping to get through 4 Pomodoros today. Shit, how many Pomodoros did we do? I only took break twice. Yeah, I wonder where all the time went. So, looking back at this time, we've been streaming for about an hour and 46 minutes. Where the hell did all the time go? Maybe it went. Maybe I spent a lot of time wrestling with the whatever. I'll figure it out. Today is the technical difficulty stream. Anyways, so I want to finish out this. What you call it? I want to finish out this video today, and then that's it. We'll end the stream there, and we'll pick up next time.
You now know how to use the Node module system to load in core Node modules like the file system module and other files you've created, like notes.js. In this video, you're going to learn how to use the module system to load in NPM packages. This is going to allow us to take advantage of all of those options. There are an endless amount of awesome, useful scratch. There are things that pretty much every application out there does problems, which is indeed the standard in the Node community. Then we can spend our developer time focusing on the awesome features that make our app unique. So as I mentioned a bit earlier in the class, when we installed Node, we also got the NPM program installed on our machine. This gives us access to everything over at npmjs.com, which we'll head back over to in just a few moments. Now, before we can actually use any of these modules in our script, we have to take 2 very important steps. 1, we have to initialize npm in our project. Then 2, we have to install all of the modules we actually want to use. So let's go ahead and see how that happens. First up, let's initialize npm in our project, which means we have to run a single command from the project root. That root directory is the Notes app folder, so make sure you're running commands from there. In the terminal down below, I am indeed accessing that directory. Now, when we first installed Node, we got the version of Node we were using by using the Node command with the v flag. When we installed Node, we also got access to the npm command line tools. We can run that with the v flag to get the version of npm we're running, and right here, you can version or higher, which it should be, npm project, and in the end of the day, it's not going to do anything fancy. It is simply going to create a single configuration file that we can use to manage all of the dependencies from the npm website that we want to install. So right here, we're going to go ahead and run npm in it. Now, it has a lot of information telling us exactly what's happening. In the end of the day, what's really going on is that npm is asking us for some information to populate various fields in this configuration file. Now, we can type out custom answers. So for example, the first piece of information it wants is just a name for our package, so some sort of name for this project. Now, by default, it uses the folder name.
Not going to lie, I don't do this quite often. A lot of the times, I'll just start off a project, and I'll just make a folder, and I'll just start installing things, and then it'll just generate a package.json. Oh man, I feel like I should do this. I don't know, like, I just find it funny that I don't. Whatever.
Notes app, we can choose to use that by just hitting enter, or we could type something custom to override that value. For every single question it asks, we're going to stick with the default value. So we have package name. I'm just going to hit enter. We have version. We have description, entry point, test command, git repository, keywords, author, and license. Now, there are a few of these fields we'll be exploring in detail later. We'll talk about testing when we explore testing, and we'll talk about the Git repository when we set up deployment. Many of these fields, however, are for folks who are creating NPM packages, which is not what we're doing. We're creating an application on our own, and we're trying to consume NPM packages, so the values for many of these are not important for our purposes. Right here, we can
I guess that's why I don't do this.
hit enter on that last one, and it's asking us if things are okay. Now, what exactly is it doing? Well, it tells us. It's about to write a package.json file to the Notes app directory. Down below, if this is the exact contents it's about to write to that file, everything looks good. We can type yes to confirm that we want npm init to actually create that file, and now we have a brand new file in our project root. If I crack it open, we can see that as npm promised, it looks exactly like what we had outputted in the terminal down below. The extension for this file is JSON, which stands for JavaScript Object Notation, and as you can see, it looks a bit like a JavaScript object. There are a couple subtle differences we'll explore as we use JSON throughout the class. It's something we're going to be covering in great detail. For now, all you really need to know is that you have to use double quotes instead of single quotes, and all of your property names, like name or author, they also need to be wrapped in quotes like we're seeing here. If I were to remove the quotes from one of our property names like license, this would be valid in JavaScript, but we can see it's invalid in JSON, so let's go ahead and bring those back. Now, this file is going to be used to manage all of the dependencies that our application needs to run. So in here, we're going to list out all of the npm packages we want to use. To start, let's go ahead and move to npm.js.com and find a package we actually want to work with. Which could be, and for that out there, there's even one with a capital V. We want this first result, lowercase validator. Now, when we click that, it's going to bring us over to the npm package page. This is a great page. Every npm package has one, and it gives us a ton of information about the package. We have the documentation for how to actually use it, and on the right-hand side, we have a bunch of great stats about the package. Things like the version number, the GitHub homepage, and the weekly downloads.
Am I using it? Validator?
This is a very popular package with over 1 million weekly downloads. So if you wanted to perform a little validation in your Node app, there are two ways you could go about that. The first approach would be to write all of the validation code yourself. You have to write the code, you have to maintain it, you're going to want to write test cases for it to make sure there are no edge cases, and in general, you're going to have to keep up with that code as Node progresses over time. Now that's option one. Now, when you're creating an application, I doubt that validation is what makes it unique. So if I'm creating a weight loss application, as an example, I likely have some sort of reason why I'm doing it. I have a model about either diet or exercise or habits that's going to help people lose weight in a way they weren't able to before. Here, millions of different applications and utilities are taking advantage of it all the time. Now, that's not to say we're not going to write code. We are, but for some things, we're going to take advantage of other packages that allow us to get it done in a much more secure way. So in this case, the validator package has all sorts of tools for validating emails, URLs, phone numbers, social security numbers, credit cards, and other types of string information like that. Let's go ahead and install it and see how it works. Now, what we're going to do is note the package name because that is essential. You can actually see a command over here that we can run to install it. Right here, lowercase v validator is the package name that we need, and we're going to head over to the terminal and install this. Now, we want to run the command we're about to run, once again, from the Notes app directory right here. That's npm install validator. Now, you'll notice on the website they used npm I validator. Those are identical. I is just a shorthand for install. You're more than welcome to use either approach. Now, from here, we're going to specify the specific version we want to install. So then the version number. I'm going to be using the latest version currently available, which is 10.8.0. In this course, I'm always going to specify package versions to make sure that we're always on the same page. NPM modules do change their APIs over time, so to ensure the videos always work, I'll be locking us into specific packages, including updates when APIs change. So right here, this is the command we want to run. Now, when we run this, what's it going to do? Well, it's going to go off to the NPM servers. It's going to grab all of the code.
Sorry. Random thought just popped into my head that I now need to test. 1 minute. 1 second. CD. What? Okay, fine. CD. Alright, you know what? CD. Notes app. Copy. Wow, it actually. I have no idea how to put spaces. Copy. No such file directory. Okay, cool. This is why you don't just add spaces. Alright, I'm gonna change this. Sorry. 1 minute. I need to figure out how to add spaces. There we go. I need to. Cool. Right. npm install types. Error. Tags may not have any characters that encoded. Okay, so do we have to specify the types for Node? Yeah, we have to specify the types. Alright, sorry, random. Well, I guess we're continuing down this rabbit hole. Where is it? npm.js add types. Types Node, React, Express. Oh, I need to make sure I remember this. So you can't just pull all the types. Well, I guess why would you? There's so many like Node, Lodash, React, Express, Jest, React, Yargs. I'm gonna need this, I guess. Wait, yeah, I'm gonna need this. W, go. Prettier, React Redux. Jesus, I'm gonna get a heart attack. Alright, so I'm gonna go kill this. Close. I'm gonna go kill this. Why is it not? Oh, because. Cool, that's gone. And I'm checking things because. Stop. Alright. So I'm gonna go finish out this video. This is just random TypeScript stuff. So there's probably a whole bunch of types that I can install that I probably need to install when running TypeScript. Who maintains these? I wonder. Wonder who maintains this. I wouldn't be surprised if the TypeScript team maintains this. I wonder who does. Actually, it has a GitHub link. Types, definitely typed. Alright, I'm gonna start this. Definitely typed. Section tracks the health of a repository. Types node, cool. Alright, is there definitely typed? This is overview. I guess it's a company or something. It's not like a personal thing. Yeah, it's a company. Definitely rando. Yeah. Is there anything else? DP merge. Cool beans. That was somewhat fun. Alright, anyways, I'm gonna go back to the course.
For that package, and it's actually going to add it into our application. And we'll notice that when we ran that command, two things happened. One, we got a package-lock.json file, and two, we got a new directory, a node modules directory. Let's take a quick look at both. First up, node modules. This is a folder which contains all of the code for the dependencies we installed. So if I crack this open, what do we have? We have a single directory, validator, that's the package we installed, and if we open that up, it's all of the code for the validator package. Now the node can go inside of validator and actually change these files, and we'll talk more about that as we progress through the course and learn more about package management when we run npm install commands. So we use npm install, and npm maintains this directory. The same thing is true with package-lock.json. This is a file which contains extra information, making npm a bit faster and a bit more secure. It lists out exact versions of all of our dependencies, as well as where they were fetched from, and we also have a SHA hash, making sure that we're getting the exact code that we got previously if we were to install a dependency again. Once again, this is not a file we should ever be editing. Once again, this will be maintained by npm. So we have our package installed, and when we ran that command, it was even added to package.json. We have a dependencies property, we have our dependency name, along with the version we installed. Now that we have it installed, we can move into our Node app, a file such as app.js, and actually load it in with require and take advantage of some of the functionality it provides. To load in an npm package, we once again use require. I'm going to add a second require statement to this file. Right here, we're going to go ahead and use require, like we did previously, and we are indeed going to pass in a string. Now for those core node modules, we typed out the module name. For our files, we would start with // to provide the relative path to the file. For npm modules, we list out the npm package name. So in this case, that would be validator, and this is similar to what we do with those core node modules. Now require is going to return all of the stuff that the validator package provides us. So right, the content, use a given package, this is when you just have to turn to the documentation to figure out how it was intended to be used. We're going to end up looking at the documentation for every tool we install. I like to point you towards the documentation since that's going to give you all of the information you would need to learn more about how something works, or or to explore other ways a given tool can be used. Now, for our purposes, on the npm package page, we have all of the different ways that this tool can be used. If we scroll down to the validators section, we have a method and we have a description of how it works. There are maybe 100 different methods for all sorts of different things we can do. One of the methods is email. This allows us to determine if a given email is valid, and that's something we are indeed going to take advantage of. This method can be accessed directly
Monsters, they're trying to get into the room.
On validator, which is an object. So let's go ahead and test this out. I'm going to add a console.log call down below so we can print some output to the terminal. I'm validator dot the method name, that's is email, and we're going to pass in to that method call a single string argument. So which should indeed be a valid email as it contains all of the component pieces. In the clear command or CLF, when I do that, what do I get? Just come up. I'm going to remove Andrew and the @ leaving run our script, and this time we correct email. If the string is into before we medical list of methods, I'm going to scroll down to is, and we're looking for u for is URL. Right here we have, so let's later in the class, I'm going to swap it out with is URL, the URL https:// Mead. We get one of the colons and the /. I'll write URL. Now, when it really make it clear how something is to be used. Up at the top, though, we can see there are real examples similar to what we just did inside of our own project. Modern features throughout. The only big difference here is that up above, we're using require, which is what we're using in Node, and down below, they're using a slightly different syntax using the import keyword. Node currently does not support the import keyword. I'll add a require, so right here, this would be you're going to end up...
Cool beans. All right. So that's pretty much it. Sorry if the stream is a little less exciting. I'm just trying to get back. I'm going through the entire course, trying to get back to where I was. Shouldn't take too long. Probably have to do maybe one more stream before we get back to where we were, and then I'll be able to. Then we'll be starting to write code. So we're almost done with section 3. We're almost done with section 3. A few things that I just kind of want to actually let me come out of here and go back to this. So a few things that I want to talk about is just what we did today. We went through most of section 3. We're not quite finished with it. We have 2 videos. That's about 20 minutes of content at like 1.5 speed, and probably me kind of skipping through stuff. But yeah, we did that. What we also did, and what we shall be doing moving forward, is that instead of writing just raw JavaScript, literally writing the stuff that the instructor is writing, I'm going to do this in TypeScript. This doesn't mean that I'm like some TypeScript wizard, so I'm probably going to mess up a lot. But the intention is that I am interested in learning TypeScript, and so I want to put myself in a position to learn TypeScript while working through this course. I installed TypeScript into the application, into what I did so far. That was earlier in the stream. So what I will be, so we'll just kind of go through the course, but I'll be writing it as if I was writing a TypeScript project, and hopefully hopefully I'll learn something interesting there. That's pretty much it for today. Thank you very much for watching. For people who catch this on YouTube later today, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this. So what should I say? I should mention that I have a YouTube. It's on the screen. It's on the top right. Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks. You have a good one, Jason. I have a YouTube. It's on the top right of the screen. Well, it's top right, but it's in the banner. It's ChadRStewart. Pretty much the VODs for this stream will go on YouTube, and I also plan to add videos to the YouTube, just like stuff like, for instance, the TypeScript installation. I'm thinking of doing like a short video of how to do that. Mainly because it's fun. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, again, thank you very much for watching. And I will see you next time. Have a good one. Wow, kind of. I'm sorry, the camera, you see the camera's getting darker as I waved. Fascinating.